All right, so in this particular video, of course, we're going to discuss Deuteronomy chapter 7, line 4, and we're going to raise the level of comprehension on this particular passage, and I'm looking forward to it. Keep watching. All right, welcome back to the channel, of course. If you're new here, consider subscribing. What I go over in the content is esoteric and exoteric research in retrospect to how it influences you and how by being on a more pious lifestyle, how that can help you in your soul journey on obtaining the regions of the light in a better way for you, okay? So yeah, like I said, consider subscribing and giving thanks if you like the content. So getting started, I want to actually start this off by actually going over Hebrews. Now, any scripture references I'll be using in this particular video will be from the Septuagint, okay? I'll be using the Septuagint in any of the scriptural references. So let's start with Hebrews chapter 1, lines 1 through 2. And in that particular passage, it says, in the past, God spoke to our ancestors many times and in many ways through the prophets. But in these last days, he has spoken to us through his Son. He is the one through whom God created the universe, the one whom God has chosen to possess all things at when? At the end. Okay, it says through whom God created the universe here. So in some of the earlier videos, you'll notice how we've been actually talking about a universal time matrix and how when you think about the book of Genesis, how they listened or some information was being listened to, and then there was a participation in that information, and then that actually got them cast out of the regions that they were in, of course, and that got them kind of brought down to lower experiences, okay? It got them into lower experiences. So what I want to do also is I want to kind of precept that with this illustration here, because we're going to be going over this in future videos if it's in the divine will to do so. So in a universe, there are typically 15 dimensions for you, okay? There's 15 dimensions, there's 12 stargates, and there's 5 harmonic matter densities, okay? Typically in one universe. That's the reason why I wanted to start out with Hebrews 1 and 2, because you're probably like, wait a minute, where are you going with this information? And I wanted to use the Septuagint to explain this, okay? So I want to use this as a foundation before going into Deuteronomy 7 and line 4 for you, okay? So let's go ahead and get started with that. So this is what it actually says in this particular passage. It says, let me just get it up on the screen here. It says, and when the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land into which thou goest to possess it, and shall remove great nations from before thee, it says the Hittite, and the Girgashite, and the Amorite, and the Canaanite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite, 7 nations, numerous and stronger than you, okay? It says, and the Lord thy God shall deliver them into thy hands, then thou shalt smite them, thou shalt utterly destroy them, thou shalt not make a covenant with them, neither shall ye pity them, neither shall ye contract marriages with them, thou shalt not give thy daughter to his son, and thou shalt not take his daughter to thy son, for he will draw away thy son from me, and he will serve other gods, and the Lord will be very angry with you and will soon utterly destroy thee. So I want to kind of go ahead and make sure that I say this for you. Now, whatever we discuss in this particular video in terms of what the seed of he or him is doing, I'm not necessarily saying or speaking that on you if it's not actually happening to you, nor am I saying it's something that is happening to me. Okay, so what we're doing in this particular video is I want to give you a higher minded way of looking at Deuteronomy chapter 7, line 4, and then you can actually line upon line look at what your experience is and be able to see if any of this lines up with you. And if it doesn't, of course, at least you have something in your tool set where you'll have what's needed for someone who it actually does apply to. Okay, I think it's very important that anytime that we're reading information or sharing information or putting together content, that we make sure that we're not speaking anything on ourselves and we're not trying to speak anything on others, because even though you might have a good way of going about it, there are those that we're going to explain in this particular video who are actually watching thy head and have been trying to use whatever it is that you are saying against you, okay? And we're gonna explain that a little bit in this video, but more in detail possibly in later videos if it's in a divine will to do so, okay? So I wanted to get that out really, really quick. So that's Deuteronomy 7, line 4. One more thing that I wanna say here is some of these definitions that we're gonna go over, of course, are gonna be from a metaphysical Bible dictionary. Okay, it's going to be from a metaphysical Bible dictionary, and because we're going to go over these 7 nations that are supposed to be numerous and stronger than you according to what's written, and we're going to use this to explain it in this particular video, okay? So what I want to do before we get started with that is I want to run this clip here for you. This is from a book called The Hidden Meanings. On page 21, it says, the oldest creation stories center around a surprisingly constant set of themes. If we look at these themes as they appear in the Dogon religion, he used the word religion here, but we find that they can be grouped into 2 distinct storylines, which I call the surface storyline and the deep storyline, okay? The deep storyline. So we can translate that, of course, into the exoteric version and the esoteric version. So the exoteric is what the masses have, right? Because not everyone is going to be privileged to attaining the knowledge. And let's go ahead and go into Genesis chapter 3, line 15 here. It says, now remember, they listened to some information, of course, and then they participated in that information that they listened to, and it got them cast out. Now we're getting some instructions that was given to them in terms of what was going to happen in a result to it. It says here, it says, and I will put enmity between you and between the woman, okay, and between your offspring and between her offspring, okay? Then it goes in to say what? It says, let's see if I can get this up here, this little arrow here. It's a little depixelated, but it might work. It says, he will watch your head, okay? And then it says, and you will watch his heel, okay? I noticed that in other explanations of this, they always make it seem like it's the woman against the serpent and so forth and so on. But in the Septuagint, of course, it kind of goes into more detail by letting you know that it is this he that comes from the woman, and it is this he that actually comes from this particular serpent, it looks like, or whoever it might be, according to how it was explained in terms of the information that was provided for us. But it says, he will watch your head, okay, and you will watch his heel. So typically when someone is watching your head, they're trying to see, how are you evolving? Okay. What do you know? Are you starting to figure anything out? And then anytime that someone is watching someone's heel, they're really trying to trace the steps of what took place. Like what are the whys, the how-tos, the why-fors, and all that kind of stuff. So, and then you're kind of building up possibly an ancient cellular defense technique type of strategy, of course, against those things once you find them out. So it looks like we have 2 different types of seeds here. We have one that will watch your head, and we have one that will watch the heel, okay? So I wanted to start with that information that talks about a deep storyline and a surface storyline, so we can kind of raise our level of awareness on what we're going to do here. So let's go ahead and get into the first explanation here. And the first thing that was on the list in terms of these 7 nations, the first one is the Hittite, okay? The Hittite. So then what we have here is we have the Hittites as those, of course, who have thoughts of opposition and resistance, okay? So they're in direct opposition of the higher minded ways of doing things, and they show a lot of resistance to that information, okay? So if you come in contact with a Hittite, it says what you're supposed to do, of course, is you're supposed to smite them, and then you don't supposed to pity them, don't make any covenants with them and all that kind of stuff, don't contract marriages with them, and don't give your sons to them or your daughters, because they will draw, okay? They will draw away thy son from me, and then you'll end up serving some other stuff that you don't actually supposed to be doing, okay? So the reason why I want to talk about this drawing aspect is because what we have here, if we take a look at this illustration here, this is a drawing. So remember earlier we were talking about these particular, a universe has 15 dimensions, 12 stargates, and so forth and so on. So if we were thinking about if someone was in a black hole system, because you see how here in the middle, how we have something that looks like it's in a hole, okay? So if you were in a black hole system and then you have these ones who said, you know what, we want to do our own thing, then it's very possible you're dealing with those who want it to be like the Most High. Remember, it's written, it says, we would be like the Most High, which means that they wanted to do some creations themselves, okay? And then there's actually a way that actually goes in terms of that creation process. I actually can share that with you. So basically you have creator gods who can create ascended masters, and then you have these ascended masters who can create these something called the Rishi, and then you have the Rishi, of course, who can create something like an avatar, what you know as an avatar, and then the avatars will create something that that would be called something like a Christos, like these Christos races, these Christos founder races, and then they will seed a particular matrix with something that you would possibly identify as a human or something. So they would seed those matrix with those types of populations and so forth. I'm not saying that is the absolute way that it's being done, or saying that it's the way that it's being done in the deception black hole systems, but it's very, very possible if you're trying to trace the steps by looking at the heel of something that's watching your head, then you'll start to see it's very possible that a lot of things that people are actually seeking after is really just giving credence to these particular ones who said we will be like the Most High, if you get what I'm trying to explain. Okay, so this here is a painting, and then you don't want to be drawed away, meaning someone has an idea as a creator. They've said that they're going to create, and then they say, you want to know what? We're going to create an image, and then we're going to create it in a way in which it draws these particular ones away from who they're supposed to be going toward, if you get what I'm saying. So then when we think about that, we could actually think about a spiral type of situation, of course, where you have one that goes down, and that's similar to what happened in the garden when they listened to that wrong information and it got them in a downward path, and then you have one that goes up, okay? So what I'm gonna explain to you by telling you about what these 7 nations do, now you're gonna have the information of what it would be if you were going down. So then you'll understand by coming in contact with people, will they help you go down, or are they going to help you go up? So I'm going to show you what these 7 nations do. So according to the Hittites, it says they have thoughts of opposition toward anything that's divine. So you know how like when you come into contact with some information and you want to share it, and then maybe it's someone that you know or whatever, but then you'll notice that they're in direct opposition of it, or they show resistance to it, to the point to where it causes malfunctions and breakdowns, possibly between you two. You get what I'm saying? Or a group. So then that would be a Hittite, okay? And then according to what's written, you know exactly what you're supposed to do, okay? And Deuteronomy 7, line 4. So next up, we have Girgashites, okay? And according to this, it says they are very material in their thinking. Do you get what I'm saying? They're very, very material in their thinking. And that is what actually, how they identify with their existence. You get what I'm saying? They're identifying with their existence based upon the material world, okay? So when you come in contact with something like a Girgashite, of course, what you're supposed to do is you don't supposed to actually join up with them. You get what I'm saying? You don't supposed to make any covenants with them. You're supposed to utterly destroy them and don't have any pity on them. and don't make any marriages with them or give your sons to them or their daughters and so forth, because they'll draw you away from me and you'll end up serving other stuff. Okay, so what I want to explain also in this explanation here is I'm actually talking about when you are wanting to dwell from within, because most people, when you have certain types of experiences, you don't sometimes know that that is an inner situation, and how it talks about how the stranger got in thee and has gotten up above thee very high, while thou has come down very, very low. Do you get what I'm saying? So then I want to also, if you notice in the community where I'm sharing various different things for you, I'm wanting to help you see that this is a microbiological parallel. All of this information that we have that's been left for us is supposed to be leading us in a direction, but we have these ones who said they wanted to be like the Most High, who have actually distorted the information, and it kind of makes it very difficult for you to actually see it properly, because most people are historicalizing it based upon the cellular memories of what's been passed on to us by those who actually weren't even doing anything on this path no better than what somebody else was doing, if you get what I'm saying. So that's the reason why I said you have to be seeking out this information in spirit and in truth. But then see how he has the foot on the tail, and then it says you will be the tail and not the head, and he will lend to thee and all that kind of stuff. But it's basically saying that the stranger will get in thee and get up above thee very, very high. So we're going to explain that moving on in this particular video, what we're dealing with here. So next up, after going over the Girgashites, we have the Amorites here. It says this is a race inheritance. Okay, this is what it's saying here. The Amorite seat of action is the generative function. It says they can be overcome only by purification of the consciousness within and without, that is, in thought and deed, with the flaming torch of spirit. It says the word spirit here, or mind. It says generation is very strongly rooted in man's consciousness and has been elevated by man in personal thought to be the very heights. It says highlanders, mountainers, dwellers of the summits, but it must be put away that one may be regenerated in mind and body. Okay, so it looks like here, all this stuff looks like an earth dweller. So then if we look down here in this universal matrix, of course, someone who is very like just, they don't really care about the inner aspect of anything. And this is the wrong information that's getting into the DNA. And let me give you this illustration here. So since we're talking about this generative thing, it says the next generation sequencing, NGS, determines the DNA sequence of a complete bacterial genome, which is DNA, in a single sequence, okay? So when you're caught up into these automatic functions, this is information that gets coded in, and it looks like this is what these Amorites represent, is that whole hard drive situation. You get what I'm saying? Dealing with just things that necessarily doesn't have anything to do with there being more worlds or more experiences or anything. You know, it's like a heaven, hell, earth concept, if you get what I'm trying to explain. So then when you come in contact with them, it says that you don't supposed to join up with them. You get what I'm saying? Because you're dealing with lower birth anytime you come in contact with this information that I'm going to explain to you. And this is what it means when you have a cup that's filled with abominations. You get what I'm saying? And you don't supposed to enter into that, because then you would be contributing toward lower birth. Okay? So it says they would draw you away from me if you come in contact with them. All right, next up, we have the Canaanites here. And it says the elemental life forces in the subconsciousness. It says under sense, thought, and expression. That's what they're under. And then that typically basically just means someone who is really just controlled by the senses. You know, they express themselves only in the senses. So I have this illustration here. Like, for example, in earlier passages, you'll notice how it talks about, I remember when a woman came to him and said he just called her a dog. And then when you precept that with information, you'll see that it really is talking about someone who is in the fleshly, expressions and so forth. You get what I'm saying? So here, if we look at this illustration, this is from the cosmic memory. The last sentence, it says, his soul expresses itself only in instincts and appetites, animal desires. So that's what it means when it says, called her a dog, because it's just a dog, you already know. It says, and so on, his consciousness was dreamlike. So that's what it's like when you come in contact with a Canaanite, is they're the ones with the tongue hanging out and stuff, and they're just really interested in those fleshly types of enjoyments, okay? And that's how they think that they can sustain themselves. So you see what you're supposed to do with them when you come in contact with that. Of course, you don't supposed to utterly destroy them. You don't supposed to pity them, and you don't supposed to make any contract marriages with them. Don't give your sons and daughters to them because they'll draw them away. Okay, that's really what they'll do. They'll move your thoughts away. You get what I'm saying? And then they'll have you in that downward spiral, of course, that leads to that you will surely die. You get what I'm saying? So it's a lower birth. So you want to move from being a dead cell to a living cell. Remember in the book of Genesis, it says he breathed into his nostrils and he became a living soul. So that's a living cell. Okay. So it looks like through these 7 nations, if you come into the influence of any of this stuff, this seems to be the path of becoming a dead cell. Okay. So next up, we have the parasites here. It says they're all about thought springing from and belonging to that in consciousness, which the paras signifies. And then I have paras meaning broken through, torn asunder, dispersed. And that is a good timing, especially we just start speaking about the cells, how cells typically have a wall and so forth and so on. And then if something gets broken through, then you have that information that gets in there, of course. And then when you start adhering to that information and it starts getting applied to the rest of the information in the body, then that's how you got dispersed. You get what I'm saying? That's how you got dispersed into the lower areas and so forth. And then the stranger, the bacteria and all that other kind of stuff, the dead cells, that they started ruling over you in your own vehicle. You get what I'm saying? So while we're on this path of restoration, which is what we've been talking about in our videos, by making sure that you have this microbiological parallel aspect with this information, then you can be on your path to becoming a living cell, and you can purge out all of that bad information and so forth out of the body as you're moving through the various different locations. You're coming in contact with these 7 nations that are greater than you, and then it's giving you the instructions on what you shouldn't be doing. You get what I'm saying? And what you should be doing when you come in contact with them, once you understand that you then become your inner dwelling. You get what I'm saying? You start contributing toward that inner man, so to speak. Okay. And then since I brought that word up, this is from Ephesians chapter 3, line 16. It says that he would grant you, according to the riches of his glory, to be strengthened with the might by his Spirit in the inner man. In the inner man. Okay. So when you're in the inner man, that's how you come in contact with these 7 nations that have been there kind of ruling over you. The strangers in you and so forth had got up above thee and all that kind of stuff. And then as you're doing this process of restoration, it's giving you the instructions on what you're supposed to do there. Okay. So next up, we have the Hivites. All right. So it says they're all about thoughts belonging to the carnal consciousness in man. The Hivites were descended from Canaan, and we already know what that's about, son of Ham, and refer to the physical and carnal in the individual, okay? So when we refer back to our illustration here, that's how you're dealing with just physical body intelligence. That's how they relate. The whole experience is just based on physical sense enjoyments. You get what I'm saying? Going along to get along, caught up into possible contaminating organizations and groups and teams and so forth, and kind of identify themselves with that. You know how most people identify themselves with the school they go to, they identify themselves with their religion or any group that they're a part of, and that's how they define themselves. Oh, I'm a this or I'm a that. It's not really about any lineage or any of that kind of stuff. They really just focus on that, if you get what I'm saying. So it sounds like that's where we're getting involved with the Hivite situation, or pretty much all of them, all of these 7 nations, really. But we're just breaking it down individually the best way we can for you, okay? So we have the Hivites as being all about the carnal aspect of consciousness, okay? And that refers back to this illustration from the cosmic memory when it says his soul expressed itself only in instincts. You get what I'm saying? So you're basically at the animal level there, okay? And that's what you have to, get out of, okay? So next up, of course, we have the Jebusites. It says a Jebusite signifies a thought belonging to the state of consciousness that is symbolized by Jebus. And I have that as just somebody who's just of anything. You get what I'm saying? So easily influenced, just the Walking Dead. You get what I'm saying? Like zip ahead Fred, to where you can like zip the head and put stuff in there and zip it back up. Anyone can just move you any way that you want to go. You get what I'm saying? They can just control you by the senses. You see what I'm saying? So you don't want to be an open vessel for other types of lower level of intelligences to be able to influence you and to manipulate you. And it looks like that's kind of the information that you would get inside if you come in contact with this Jebusite, So then when you come in contact with them, it says that you're supposed to just utterly smite them. You don't supposed to pity them, and you don't supposed to make any covenants with them. You don't supposed to make any marriages with them. Don't give your daughters or your sons to them, because they'll what? They'll draw you away. They'll draw you downwards. You get what I'm saying? And they don't have the information on they only have the information to draw you down. Okay? So that's what we're talking about when we talk about these Jebusites here. All right? So that completes our 7, of course. I want to share something with you, okay? Because in Deuteronomy chapter 7 here, how it talks about, it says a son, and it even does this in the KJV tier. Line 4, it says, here it just says, for he will draw away thy son from me, and how I've been kind of hinting toward a spiral in this situation, okay, in terms of drawing. And then to give you an illustration of that, you might have something along these lines that's been done, but that it has to be fulfilled in some kind of way, if you get what I'm saying. So I want to share this. This is from the Divine Spark, okay? Let me see if I can get this pulled up, because the text looks a little bit small on my end here. And I'm going to leave this obviously underneath the like button here for you, so you can seek out this information on your own. But let me just find it here. All right, so this is what it's saying. All right, so this is page 33 from the Divine Spark. This is what it says here. It says, to the Egyptians, the sun was not something to be worshipped, but an emblem of the soul or the cell of man, which, if perfect, would take its rise in the east, follow its natural course by way of the south, go to the west, and thence return to the east, only to appear again in the east, and eternally follow its course to greater perfection and continual growth. Okay, probably should have laid out with this one, but this here helps you understand what we're really talking about when we deal with these 7 particular nations, of course, and how they are the position that they're in is to make sure that you are not trying to obtain your perfection, and you are not trying to obtain growth, and you are off course, and you are spiraling downwardly, of course, instead of doing your course that rises in the east, follows its ways to the south, of course, and then goes to the west, and then returns to the east. You get what I'm saying? And that's what it means here when it says that they will draw your sons away from me. You get what I'm saying? Meaning you will be off course, and you won't be striving towards your perfection and continual growth, So the goal, of course, with these particular videos is to help you see this from an inner perspective. We can start with the microbiological aspect of it, to where you want to purge things out that are possibly there and that have been jumping from one gene to the next gene through something called transposons. And we're going to get into this. Transposons is something that like it has a copy and paste type of way about doing it. So you can translate that to where if the moment someone is trying to do something good, then something else comes along trying to say something to you to remind you of something that you did before. That's like a transposon. So what I want to do in these particular videos is to show you how most people's daily experiences are mirroring microbiological things that are taking place from within the body. And once we look at these scripts this way, which is just a cellular script, that's what these scripts are. It's a cellular script. So what messages are you encoding in the MR in the messenger RNA? And that's the right way to look at this information. Like there's been a lot of distortions and things have become historicalized to where you have a lot of people who have been participating in trying to obtain something, but then they do it year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and they're like, wait a minute, we're having the same things happen to us that's happened to the people that are supposedly in the world. You know, what's going on here? And then they possibly end up leaving certain organizations, seeking out something else. You get what I'm saying? So what I want to show you here, of course, is the missing information that I think everyone who is participating in trying to help their people is you need to align this information up from a microbiological aspect, because then it will make sense and it will become clear to you what the ancients were actually trying to leave for us in terms of this path of ancient cellular defense against these particular strangers who were not necessarily part of the beginning, if you get what I'm saying. He who makes his stand in the beginning will know the end and will not taste death. So I just gave you an example in this video of what eating of the wrong information has done. And we see that it has gotten those cast out of higher regions, of course, and it's got them placed into the lower worlds where they're caught up into a bunch of hard drive type situations and pleasures of the flesh that's been brought on and encouraged by these 7 nations that are greater and stronger than you, primarily because the information has been obtained by them, and then they've been using the information to rule over you, and then by causing you to carry much seed out into the field and carry but little in, and then they've started this process of hiding from you what it means to be born of God, so to speak. Okay, so this is 1 John chapter 3, line 9. It says, whosoever is born of God did not commit sin, for his seed remaineth in him. And that's what it's going to take in order to be on this path and get back on course, which we read from the divine spark here. Okay, so if you have any questions about this particular video, you're more than welcome to leave them in the comment section underneath the like button. And this is the direction that we're going in. You know, we're wanting to make sure that you have the information that you need so you can determine, you know, whose seed are you actually of. Do you get what I'm saying? And then we can stop this whole concept of making it about color, so to speak. It does have a part to play, but it shouldn't be the main thing that we're focusing on. I think the main thing that we should be focusing on is the information in terms of it. Like, there's nothing you can do when we say dead cell or living cell. I mean, it's really no debate. Do you get what I'm saying? Either you're contributing toward what a living cell represents, or you're contributing toward what a dead cell represents. And I mean, there's no way, there's nothing you can do. You can just say, okay, well, am I a dead cell or am I a living cell? And then I'm sure that there's many dead cells that would like to hear the information of what it might take in order to be a living cell. Do you get what I'm saying? So then when you make it more about the hard drive situation and cellular memories and so forth, then it becomes about teams, organizations, groups, and schools and hidden societies and all that other kind of stuff. You get what I'm saying? It becomes more about that in terms of what you are part of, as opposed to looking at it properly and saying, okay, am I a dead cell or am I a living cell? You know? And there's nothing we can do there, you see. So that should be what the message is moving forward, of course, if you are looking to help those We want to get out of the nom de guerre terms, and we just really need to say, okay, look, guys, we have a situation where we become a dead cell by dead cells. Okay, now we want to become a living cell. What is the appropriate path to do so? Some might be longer than others. You get what I'm saying? But as long as everyone wants to go ahead and make the assertive effort to obtain that, then there could possibly be a place for you in the in this divine structure that's being established. You get what I'm saying? In that body, there could be a place for you. You know. So we have to root out all dogmas and set creeds, and we have to bring this back to the cell, the first cell. And that's really what we're doing here in these particular videos. All right. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and end this one, and I'll see you in the next one.